we are being joined by Colonel Rich Utzon, who is a senior fellow at the Atlantic Council and the Jamestown Foundation. Pleasure to have you on the show, Rich.
Good to be with you.
Colonel Rich, do you feel this move by Iran, along with other Gulf states like the UAE, is a direct message to the US that these West Asian nations are now standing together and US is, in a way, not needed there anymore?
Well, I think it's more of an indirect message. Let's take a look at the two data points we have. The first was the withdrawal, as you mentioned, of the UAE from the Combined Maritime Force headquartered in Bahrain. So that is a group of 34, now 33 nations on a voluntary basis to do sort of joint patrolling for security in the Gulf and the surrounding regions. So the UAE is sending a message by saying we're not going to participate in that anymore, in that it does not trust that this voluntary sort of arrangement is actually a guarantee of its security. As you know, the Iranians have been the ones with their fast attack boats that are harassing shipping in the Arabian Gulf, Persian Gulf area. So this is sort of like the old mafia movies, where a local thug comes up and says, it would be a shame if something happened to your ships. Maybe you ought to join for some protection money. So I think there's a little bit of intimidation going on there. The second data point that we have is that, look, this proposed alliance that's been referenced in the press is not really what it seems. What we have is some press reports out of Tehran on Friday from a naval commander in the Iranian forces who says that we want to start patrols on a collective basis in the northern Indian Ocean littoral, obviously an area that is of great interest to India as well as the United States and the countries of West Asia. And then he said, we think that there's eagerness to participate in this by countries like, and then he named Saudi Arabia, UAE, Qatar, even Pakistan and India. So this is not a proposal for an alliance. It's a proposal for sort of joint patrolling. Now, clearly, the goal is to get the United States out. I mean, clearly, the Chinese behind the scenes and Iran very much in front are trying to say, you don't need the United States for security in this area. As a matter of fact, it's less secure because it makes us want to attack your ships. So why don't we just do this ourselves? So this is something to be worried about. It's not a formal alliance, at least not at this stage. It's a proposal from the Iranians, and we should be concerned both in India and in the United States.
Rich, now I understand it's a proposal still because there's not been any comment which has come in from the other nations. But about 20% of oil supplies flow through the Strait of Hormuz. I think that is where this alliance will be active. And US has been protecting that region actively since several years. Now, is there a possible China link here which has brokered peace in the region and now it's eyeing this region for its own Belt and Road initiative, which you just spoke about right now?
Certainly that is the case. As you saw and as you mentioned with their role in brokering sort of a rapprochement between Saudi Arabia and Iran, I think China's perspective really rests on two elements. First, they're a major oil importer, and they don't want any of these oil exporters, not Iran, not Saudi, not the Emirates, to be fighting one another. So they have a legitimate commercial interest, but also a geopolitical interest in making sure if these countries aren't all best friends, at least they're not fighting and disrupting the supply of oil. That has traditionally been a role that the United States carried out. In a multipolar world, we have a competition ongoing for who will be the security provider in this area. But the other thing is China also is growing subtly by being behind the scenes here. Iran is its cat's paw, so to speak. They are extending geopolitical influence to the detriment of the U.S. and its traditional allies. And I would say also with an eye on India as it does so. So China is certainly the strategic mind behind this. And Iran is the front face of trying to attract countries away from a collective security arrangement that the U.S. runs.
Thank you for joining in on the broadcast, Rich. Always a pleasure to have you here with us. That was Colonel Rich Utzon, who's a senior fellow at the Atlantic Council.
Good to see you.